Typically, I only do Q&A videos in my Patreon Tier 1 account. The link for my Patreon account is down below. Patreon. But Krystal Webb, these are gonna be specifically for you. Krystal Webb is writing a book or a novel of some sort, and she has given me a ton of questions. So I've written down most of them. I think I got all of them. Most of them, almost all of them. I don't know. But here we go. Question 1, do the phones in the rooms only connect to places on the ship or off the ship too? The phones that are on the ship only connect to the phones on the ship. Generally, there is going to be a satellite phone on the bridge or in the captain's quarters. My first ship, they did allow us to use the satellite phone for like 50 cents a minute. My last ship I was just on, they did not charge us, but we weren't allowed to use it. It was only for emergency purposes. So if you actually really had like an emergency call, then they would let us use a satellite phone. But for just, casual calling, they didn't let us use it. So question number 2, what would the average crew size look like? Typically about 18 people. You figure bare minimum you're gonna have a captain, a chief mate, a second mate, a third mate. Sometimes you have 2 third mates. You're gonna have at least 3 ABs. Sometimes you'll have 4, but you'll have at least 3 AB watchstanders. You'll have 1 bosun, at least 1 OS, or usually 2 OSs. That's just for the deck. For the engine side, you're gonna have chief engineer, first assistant engineer, second assistant engineer, third engineer. You're gonna have 3 oilers or Q-meds and at least 1 wiper. The steward department is just the chief steward, the cook, and the SA. Okay, question number 3. What is the youngest age a person can be to work on a cargo ship or train to work on a ship? Generally speaking, especially for the SIU apprenticeship program, they only allow 18 or older, but I know you can get your MMC, your Merchant Mariner credential, at 16 years old. And I knew a third mate who told me when he was going through his cadet thing for his schooling, there's actually a 17-year-old cadet that was on his ship, and I guess what it was he was one of the homeschooled kids that was able to graduate early at 16 or something, and so he was able to go into a cadet program at 16 and then went on to his cadet training ship. But in order to do that, his parents, his legal guardians, had to sign over the guardianship of that 17-year-old to the captain of the ship. So I would assume if you are 16 years of age and you're going to be doing some kind of international travel or going so many miles from land, you're going to need parent legal guardian permission and or transfer that guardianship to the captain for the time of the underage person on the ship. So how many different kinds of ships are there? Question number 4. Again, generally speaking, just from what I know of in the maritime industry, not including the fishing industry and all that, but the cargo industry, you're gonna have container ships, which are just container ships. You're gonna have bulk carriers, which are Bulk carriers can be either or. They could have containers on them, but they'll have hatches that they'll just like load grain or, you know, any kind of grain, dirt, whatever onto. So container ships, bulk carriers, ro-ros, roll-on, roll-offs, which are like giant ferries. I'm gonna be going to one here sometime soon where it is, they literally drive the semi-trailers onto the ro-ro. The semi-truck disconnects and leaves, and then the ship transports the trailers. So those are ro-ros. You got container ships, bulk carriers, ro-ros. You have tankers. There's a few different kind of tankers, but tankers are, they transport liquid cargo or gases, liquefied gases, oil. So that's tankers. Along with container ship, there's super container ships, which those are all usually just foreign because they cost so much to do and cost so much to man. But yeah, container ships, bulk carriers, ro-ros, tankers. I've never been on one or known anyone to be on one, but I know there are like spy vessels or spy / like research vessels that kind of just go out in the water. Typically, I've heard them up around Antarctica just doing research type stuff. But yeah, that's all I can really think of for the actual like cargo transportation side of the industry. So next part. Does the ship you're on count as a cargo tramp ship? Krystal, you're thinking, I think we already discussed this, that the daily vlog series was now almost a year and a half ago, but that was just a typical container ship. A tramp ship, a cargo tramp ship, is a ship that doesn't generally know its destination all the time. They go port to port, and they might pick up something in Tacoma and bring it down to California, but they're not gonna know until they get to California where they're going next. They might get to California and they might get sent to the Bahamas, or they might get sent back to Tacoma. They might get sent to Alaska. That's the whole point of the tramp ship. They go port to port wherever, you know, things need to get shipped. Are there any reason, I forgot what number I'm on, so are there any reason the cargo would be thrown overboard? Not that I really know of, besides if there was a dangerous or explosive type cargo aboard, or maybe some kind of radioactive or like acid, something that would be harmful to the crew. They're not just gonna throw it overboard. But if it's gonna be harmful to the crew and it's spilling or it's leaking or something like that, and it is gonna cause danger to the crew and or the ship, then yes, they will throw it overboard. Would that help stabilize in a storm? No. If you start throwing stuff overboard, then you become lighter, which then the sea can push you around more. So how big would a wave have to be to overtake the ship? Some of these questions I can't, take these with a grain of salt. But how big would a wave have to be to overtake the ship? I don't necessarily know, but it wouldn't have to be that big if the ship is already sideways. If the wave's coming at you, you generally want to be going with it, or against it or with it. But if the wave is going this way and the ship is coming out this way, it might not take a really big wave to push that ship over. So what are the different crew positions? I kind of went over that with how many people are on a ship, what's the average crew size. I went over all the positions. So next one, What are the procedures setting sail, and does every crew member participate? I couldn't give you the whole rundown of all the procedures because there's different things that the officers do that I don't know. You know, there's all sorts of gear tests and safety tests, stern tests, propulsion tests, light tests, all that goes on the bridge that officers take care of. For the general deck department, the ABs, the OSs, the bosun, generally we'd be rigging the pilot ladder, rigging the gangway, pulling out the lines. Well, I guess that's for not, if we're setting sail, we wouldn't be pulling out the lines, but that's, you know, what was it? What would be the standard, what is the standard storm procedure? Oh, that was the wrong question. What is the standard storm procedure? Not what standard sail procedure. Okay, what is the standard storm procedure? Either you put out more lines to tie up to the ship, like more lines, you'll double up on the lines, or you just go out into the ocean and start avoiding it and running away from it. Those are the two procedures you got. What would be the standard time for setting sail? There is no standard time for setting sail. My last ship that I was on, I mean, all times of the day, all times of the night, whenever the cargo got loaded or unloaded, we were out, we left. Sometimes it was 2 a.m., sometimes it was 3 a.m., sometimes it was 2 p.m. Anytime on the clock, that ship can leave. Because, you know, it costs money to be on that dock. So the faster they get in, faster they get out, the better for the company. Last question. When coming onto a ship, being added to a crew, would you meet all members of the already established crew? No. Because there's kind of like a day watch and a night watch. So as for me, an AB, the deck guy, I'm not gonna meet anybody in engine. I'll meet some of the SA, the steward department, because typically I'm gonna get on a ship, usually around a meal time is when I've gotten to ships. And so you get to meet the steward department. I'm gonna end up meeting either the captain or the chief mate right off the bat with the bosun. Usually I'll meet the bosun first. The bosun or an OS will end up bringing me to the room. But after the bosun, it's chief mate or captain. The last ship I was on, I met the chief mate. It was the bosun and then the chief mate. And the chief mate actually did all my sign-on paperwork. And then I didn't meet the captain until later. But on other ships I've been on, we met the captain first to get all the sign-on paperwork. So, you know, different companies do it differently. But in that first day, I might only meet, you know, the bosun, the chief mate, or the captain, maybe one other AB or maybe an OS. But you usually meet people throughout the week, you know, at meeting times or passing in the halls or whatever. You're not gonna meet everybody right away. That's it. That was the last question. Krystal Webb, thank you for all the questions. I hope I answered them for what you need them for. I answered them to the best of my abilities. If you have any more, don't hesitate to ask me. For the rest of you, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, and I'll see you in the next video.